Hello again, this is the Streamer of Stories. I'm streaming them out for you day by day as we go through the Word of God. And I've got it right here in my hands, the most powerful way to start your day. So let's go into the fourth day. I've already done 2 posts for 3 days. The first, God created light. The second day, God separated the waters. And the third day, God created life in the form of plants and trees. Now at this point we know that God's created a great world. And let's see what He does with it. I opened the Word to read about the fourth day. Then God said, "Let there be lights throughout the expanse of the heavens, and let them separate the day and the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and for nights, and let them be like lights shining down out of heaven, to give light on the earth." And God made, and this happened in just this way, and God made 2 great lights, put them in the sky. The bigger one He made to rule the daytime, and the smaller one He made to rule the nighttime. And God also made stars. So God put them in the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule the day and to rule the night, and to separate light from darkness. And God saw that it was good, and there was evening and there was morning, the fourth day. Okay, so we've got now stars in the sky, and I already know what you're thinking. You're thinking, this is dumb. The Bible is dumb. I went to 4th grade class. I already know this, that God did not create or whatever, create the stars and the moon and the sun after the earth. That's the dumbest thing I've heard in my life. Please don't turn it off. Hold on, because I know what you're thinking. Yeah, and this is something that has been haggled with. I actually have heard many come back and say that God didn't actually create these things after the earth, but if you were standing on the earth and you were looking up at the sky, you wouldn't have been able to see anything on day 1. You wouldn't have been able to, well, obviously because there's no light, right? But you wouldn't be able to see anything on day 2, and you wouldn't be able to see anything on day 3, but then God did something that all of a sudden it makes the air clear, and then you can see everything all of a sudden. Now, you know, okay, so if a tree falls down in the woods and nobody saw it, did it fall? Like, there's nobody on the earth, right? But I would assume that God is on the earth. He can see it. God is creating the earth so that it can be seen. So if that's the case, that the stars and the moon and the sun and all of that were already there, then what is the point of this day? And that's a good question. And so that's one we'll look at here. Another good question I have is, why did God do it this way? Like, why didn't God just say, okay, let's start with the sun, let's start with the moon, you know, then we have light, and then after that, you know, we can do like the water and the land and the trees and the people and all that. So that's a good question too, and I think we have an answer in there. I'm going to turn ahead a little bit to something God said a little bit later, which is in the book of Deuteronomy. And if you want to find this, it's Deuteronomy 4:19. But it says, God says, beware, because if you look up in the sky and you see all this awesome stuff I made, the moon, the stars, all the host of heaven, then you're probably going to want to worship them. But those are things that I've given to everyone. And at this point, God's talking to the people of Israel, who God has made this sort of pact with them, that they would only worship or admire or adore God. And so God said, these are things I've given to everyone on earth, but, you know, you guys aren't supposed to be like them. You know, you aren't supposed to do what everyone does. Well, so that's the point, and that God is like, He makes all this stuff, and people like it so much that they like worship that. And so I've heard someone say once that, if you want to de-emphasize something, you put in the middle. Like, people always remember like the first thing they hear, and then they always remember the last thing they hear. But you put something in the middle, and they kind of forget about it. And so, I don't know, maybe that's why God put this on the fourth day, because the fourth day is the middle day, right? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there because I think that God gives us the freedom and the liberty to just kind of throw these things out here and think about them. I'm not saying gospel. I'm just saying maybe God put that on the fourth day for that reason. But the other thing I wanted to bring up in this post is I wanted to ask you, do you see anything else new or unique? Because remember the last day I talked about like God introduced some new stuff, like he introduced the whole idea of diversity, that God likes diversity, and also that God likes God even made kind of a hierarchy where some stuff is good and some stuff isn't. And so God's introducing some of these new concepts that are from God, and even the second and third day, like one's good, one isn't. So is there anything new in this passage? And if maybe you want to stop this post and think about it a minute, because I'm just about to tell you. But God actually does do something kind of unique here. And I was just thinking, like, God gives these guys a job, right? And also, here's a job, like he gives them 4 jobs. He says, signs, seasons, and days, and years. And he actually gives them more, because then he says, their job is to be like lights. So he's giving them all these jobs to do. And I think like days and years, like I get that, and that's pretty basic, but then seasons. So God is actually setting up seasons no matter where you live on the earth. And later we're going to talk maybe about like Jewish feasts and things that are all based on sun and moon. And the one that really gets me is like signs. So we have like people that watch like Zodiac and all that stuff, and we talk about how bad it is. But I wonder, if there's something in the sun and moon and stars like we're supposed to get some sign from. And we all have seen like eclipses, and I think you can go on a lot of posts and you can find out all this amazing stuff that like shows the possibility of God coming, or even shows like when God came to earth. We'll talk about that later, but how there were like signs in the sky. So this is all set up from the very beginning. And I think that's the coolest thing. I don't know about you, but I think that the fact that it's in here is pretty amazing, and we can actually build something on that. But before I run out of time, which I'm about to do, I'm going to talk about the idea that God gives them all these jobs, and these are jobs that God did before, but now He gives them to someone else to do. And I just wonder if if God has done that to us. And I want to show you that He has. I want to flip forward to the book of Philippians, all right? And I found this other little comment that Paul makes, and it's pretty cool, because Paul is talking to this church, and he isn't able to be there anymore because he's in prison now, and that's a long story, but we'll tell it later. But he says to them, just as you have always obeyed, even when I was there, now you've got to do that much more, and work out your salvation on your own with fear and trembling. God is working in you to do His good pleasure, but do all these things without grumbling or complaining, because you are blameless, innocent children of God, and shining in this generation like stars. So give that some thought. We are like the stars, where before we're given this job. Think about how good the stars do their job, and the moon and the sun, they do it flawlessly. But what about us? What about you? Has God given you a job, and are you being obedient to that job? That's the thought that I want to leave with you today. I'm out of time. I hope you enjoyed this post. Give it some thought as you go about your day. All right.